Hey everyone, it is Brandon here again for another quick video today. And this is actually a Q&A. I had a viewer who asked a pretty, I guess, somewhat mainstream question, but I figured it would be good to contemplate this real quick and just give a response and give anyone who's viewing this my take. So the question was basically, what is your take on accepting mortality? Basically accepting that we aren't going to last forever, that us as human beings on planet Earth, we are going to pass away in some form or another. Our bodies don't last forever. Our brains don't even last forever. And in a sense, our minds don't last forever, or at least do not remain the same to where you could even call them human much anymore. So the real question is, what continues after death, if anything? Well, for one, if you're going to accept mortality, that's kind of easy in a sense because you don't really have another choice. If you resist mortality, it's going to be the same result. Like, your body's gone, your brain's gone, in a sense, your family, your friends, maybe even your God is gone. Like, maybe heaven is lost with your mind when you die, and that's the last of it. Some things to consider. So there is a Buddhist perspective on this, and it's, interesting to some people if you haven't heard of it before, but actually in some of the earliest Buddhist teachings, I've read them mainly in the Majjhima Nikaya, which is the middle-length discourses of the Buddha, and in other early writings as well. There are descriptions of what you should do to think about death. How should you think about death, or your body, or your personality? Well, one of the methods is to actually visualize your body in, I believe, what's called a charnel ground, is some of the language that I saw it in. Basically, visualize your body in a graveyard or a boneyard, and maybe even visualize your bones scorched and cracked, and like all that's left of you is a skeleton, and kind of visualize and contemplate and internally view and feel what that kind of means to you. What does that bring up to think about your body basically being destroyed? And not only that, your brain is gone with that, your heart's ripped apart, it's disintegrated, it's been eaten by worms. Those contemplations exist for a very specific reason. They're prescribed as a form of practice in Buddhism because it's actually very important to progressing in that system to see that things do not last forever. That doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't forever, I guess you could say. It's definitely a teaching that no thing lasts forever. And one of the ways this is described is through the no-self principle, the non-substantiality of the self, anatta, which is described in early Buddhism. And this basically calls things not myself. Consciousness is anatta, not myself. The Atman in, Hinduism, Hindu forms of spirituality being, this sort of individualized form of, the highest self. Buddhism is basically saying these things are not that. And in a sense, it's right in line with plenty of Hindu practices, such as like neti, not this, not that. I am not my breath. I am not the feeling of my arm right now. I'm not my fingernail. Like, my fingernail isn't everything that I am. It's a part of me, you could say, but if you look inward with these methods and look at what you really are, they're all designed to disintegrate your feeling of being an integrated, real, never or everlasting entity, because the truth is that you are not. Your body isn't, your mind even isn't. Now, some of these spiritual, schools, they will tell you that there is a type of self or a type of you that does last. And I would say it is, from what I've seen, it's actually maybe a misconception. People think that there is no self at all in Buddhism. I've heard recently by someone who claims to be a Pali translator, so the language that the early Buddhist scriptures were written in. He was a translator of these early texts, a language not many people know these days at all. Kind of esoteric, or not even kinda, just flat out esoteric. If you can read Pali, I almost know, and I don't even know if anyone can speak Pali really these days. But by the way, that is spelled P-A-L-I. I recognize I say it kind of quick, and it might sound like I'm saying something else. Anyway, he was saying that where the term anatta was used, or anatta, meaning not myself, it was only used as an adjective, saying that this thing, mental formations, intentions, are not myself. Consciousness is not myself. All of the formed world, such as objects, places, things, things you can feel and touch and see, like objects, let's say, form. You know what I mean by form. I think so. I would hope so. The formed world is not me, as well as any form of formless world or experience is not me. Formless realms and experiences are actually a big part of Buddhist practice. Plenty of people get into them, experience that aspect of experience, and it's also saying those aren't yourself. Perception is not yourself. Feelings, emotions, they're not yourself. Consciousness is not yourself. All of these things, not only are they not yourself, they're not eternal. And that's like what these contemplations, what these practices are all meant to lead to, is you realizing that you as a human being isn't eternal. And you need to kind of get out of that mode if you want to find the liberation that they speak of in these sorts of Eastern traditions, which is basically the liberation of finding that your individual self that has greed and lust and desire for fame and success and worldly things, is hungry, wants caffeine, wants a back rub, doesn't want to crash in traffic. Like, that part of yourself that has all of these wants and dislikes, and even some neutral positions toward things, that doesn't last forever. And that's actually a good thing. When you feel like you are a finite entity that is somehow trying to last forever and be the same way that it is now, that's not how the universe works. That's not how reality works. So when you try to live in a way that is in the opposite of accordance with reality, it kind of sucks. And that's where a lot of the dukkha, or just the inherent suffering that part of existence has inherent suffering within it. If you try to go about it in that way, I'm a Brandon Rowe and I'm going to live forever, and my family is always going to be healthy, and I'm always going to be healthy, and I'm going to be wealthy and famous and blah, blah, blah. Even if you get all those things, you're still not going to be happy all the way. Like, those things aren't what give happiness. Success in the human temporary sort of way doesn't stop the problems that ignorance creates. And ignorance in the Buddhist sense is mainly saying not looking toward the place where there is no suffering whatsoever. And that place is, it's been described in certain words, but nibbana, nirvana, those are words that are meant to talk about what this thing is. It's not even necessarily an exact state. It can be a state in the form of a type of state or non-state, you might even kind of say. But these practices are meant to bring you to a place where you no longer suffer. And in a sense, there is no real world where there is a real you that doesn't suffer. You have to get rid of the real feeling of a real you for suffering to actually all the way stop. And that gets into, examples of like cessation or fruition. And that's kind of one of the forms that nirvana, nibbana, is looked at, and one of the types or expressions of the liberation that these Eastern schools point to. But anyway, I just went on a sort of rant on these types of teachings and what they point to, and why it's kind of a good thing that you are going to pass away. Your human self isn't what you want to last forever. You're human. Your knowledge is limited. You're hungry every few hours. You have to pee and shit multiple times a day. You can vomit sometimes. There's bile within you, mucus, phlegm, various other bodily fluids that are kind of disgusting if you look at them. It's okay to not want that thing to last forever. But if you reach a certain point of understanding, you could see that there is something, not really a thing, that sort of lasts and is more or less divine. And that's a great place to be. And once you realize the sort of indestructibility of a certain thing we're talking about here, and you realize that that is actually more fundamental than your human self, then it's like, oh, a breath of fresh air, breathe out, relief, because you no longer have to be stressing out about trying to uphold this false, temporary, flawed human thing that you thought that you were, that you really aren't, because of false identification, leading you to believe that you were that human being thing for real, and it was a real thing, and it wasn't just, a manifestation within awareness that has really no more basis than the presentation of itself, and it's conditional, and it arises with causes, and such as a formed body being here, perception occurring, mental formations and intentions coming up. All of this feeds into your experience of awareness and consciousness, and these things can be deconstructed and removed, which is one of the things that Buddhism teaches. And finding that type of death is actually a great blessing. And I wish that, unfortunately, some of you out there might not want this, but I wish that one day you guys feel the type of immense liberation that is behind what I'm trying to point to. And when you do, and you compare that to human reality and the suffering within, you'll probably start to see what I'm meaning here, that it's a good thing that this flawed self isn't forever. It isn't the final thing. Thank God. Thank God that my, sinful humanity isn't what lasts forever, right? Wow, that would suck. But anyway, I think I've talked enough, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, blah, 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 all the normal stuff. Buy my $10 million course on, BrandonRoseFakeWebsite.com, and I'll see you guys in the next video.